I have a question about the messaging of Ethereum. So is it programmable money? Is it ultrasound money? Is it a world computer, a general purpose blockchain, or all of the above? Because it seems from a newcomer's perspective, it can be a bit difficult to grasp and sometimes make sense of compared to Bitcoin's sort of digital gold statement. So Ethereum's positioning can seem convoluted, essentially. How do you think the messaging of Ethereum overall can be improved?
I think one of the differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum here is like Ethereum does inherently embrace pluralism in a lot of ways. Like there is no dominant narrative to the same extent, right? So like in Bitcoin, for example, if you ask like what is the narrative for how Bitcoin scales, people are going to tell you it's the Lightning Network, right? And the Lightning Network doesn't really have significant competitors in that sense. Like you might have different flavors of Lightning, but it's the Lightning Network. And then if you think about like how Ethereum is going to scale, there is the optimistic rollup camp, there is the ZK rollup camp, there is off-chain data and Validiums and plasmas. There's really crazy stuff like IntMax that like almost no one knows about, which is like this weird thing that combines like 4 or 5 bytes of data on chain per transaction rollup style together with a plasma system, and you get something that's like has extremely strong privacy properties, which is really cool. So there are like 5 different ways to do something for any single thing that needs to be done, and like that's valuable, and I think there's a lot of like actually good experimentation that comes out of that. And then like there's lots of people that have different philosophies about like what we're here for, right? Like I think Bitcoin is, because it's inherently application specific, to really be a Bitcoiner you have to really believe that like either like censorship resistant sound money specifically is something that's like incredibly important and good for the world. But if you're in Ethereum, you can believe that, or you can believe in stablecoins, or you can believe the whole money thing is stupid and we're just trying to make better DAOs, or you can believe the whole money thing is stupid and DAOs don't work, but we're trying to do decentralized, like social media or carbon credits or art NFTs or whatever else. You can believe that like we're trying to make better mechanisms for fundraising and like think about like quadratic funding and other kinds of public goods funding and things like that, right? Like there's a much larger space of things you can believe and be in it that is important to do in the world and still be an Ethereum person. And Ethereum as a platform accommodates that. And I think Ethereum as an ecosystem accommodates that too. And when you have that, then like it's, you're inevitably going to just have internal conflict about narrative to some extent, because like each of those sides, like has its own different view on like what even is the sort of overarching narrative that combines all of the threads together. And I think that's fine. I think it is something that is going to stabilize over time, especially as the technical role of Ethereum, the blockchain, versus Ethereum, the ecosystem change over time, right? So like, for example, if it becomes clearer that, let's say Ethereum is a data and settlement layer, and layer 2s are the thing that where like application level stuff happens, like that's one direction, versus if, like in 5 years, Ethereum ends up evolving to the point where like it does 80% of the work and rollups do 20% of the work, then like Ethereum does become something closer to a sort of world computer like operating kernel. And at some point, it's probably going to migrate to being one or the other, which I think is totally fine. But I think in general, I still I do think that it's still too early to demand one narrative for those things. I think like the correct answer at this point just is that there's space for a lot of them at the same time, and that's part of what makes it interesting.